When you think about the founding of America, there are a few names that just loom large, right? And Thomas Jefferson, well, he's right at the top of that list. He was a founding father, our third president, and the guy who wrote some of the most famous words in American history. But he was also incredibly complicated. And that's what we're going to get into today, the paradox of the man who literally shaped America. And this, right here, this slide just lays the whole thing bare. On the left, you've got the Declaration of Independence, the document that gave us those immortal words about liberty. And on the right, that's a page from Jefferson's personal farm book. It's a list, a ledger of the human beings he owned. The same hand wrote both. This is the central conflict we're going to unpack. So first, let's talk about the Jefferson who inspired a revolution, the visionary who put the ideals of the Enlightenment down on paper and, in doing so, basically created the American creed. Okay, so picture this. It's 1776, and Jefferson is only 33 years old. Can you imagine? He's one of the youngest guys at the Second Continental Congress. It was actually John Adams who saw how powerful a writer he was and basically convinced everyone to let Jefferson draft the Declaration. That one job would end up defining his entire life and the future of the country. I mean, just think about that phrase for a second. It's been called one of the most potent and consequential sentences in American history. It became a promise, a benchmark, and a rallying cry for abolitionists, suffragists, and civil rights leaders for centuries. It was a totally radical idea back then, and it's still a powerful ideal for us today. And his vision for freedom didn't stop with that one document. No way. He was a huge champion for the idea of natural rights, which he got from thinkers like John Locke. He pushed for republicanism, a government by the people, not by a king. And he was a fierce, fierce defender of religious freedom, fighting to keep church and state separate. So you have all these big ideas. How do you actually put them into practice? Well, when Jefferson became president in 1801, he got his chance to do it on a massive scale. He called his vision an empire for liberty. You see, his ideal America wasn't one of big, crowded cities and banks like in Europe. He thought that would lead to corruption. No, his dream was a republic of self-sufficient farmers. He believed real freedom came from working the land, and that vision drove pretty much all of his policies. But that vision needed one thing above all else: land. Lots and lots of land. And this led to the single biggest move of his presidency, the Louisiana Purchase. So get this, it's 1803, and France's Napoleon Bonaparte is desperate for cash to pay for his wars in Europe. So he makes this absolutely shocking offer to sell the entire Louisiana territory. The price? Just $15 million. And what did that $15 million buy? Nearly 828,000 square miles of land. Just like that, in one single transaction, the United States doubled in size overnight. But this was so much more than a real estate deal. It was a geopolitical masterstroke. The purchase locked down the all-important Mississippi River for trade, and as you can see from this map, it basically set the stage for America's westward expansion for the next 100 years. But, and this is a huge but, that empire for liberty was built on a foundation that wasn't free at all. To really understand the Jefferson paradox, we have to leave the world stage and go home with her, to his personal world, Monticello. I mean, look at this place. It was his masterpiece. A stunning piece of architecture that he designed and redesigned his entire life. He loved it. Monticello was a center for science, for invention, for big ideas. But Monticello wasn't just a home. It was a 5,000-acre plantation. And this brilliant hub of Enlightenment thought was completely dependent on the forced labor of enslaved men, women, and children. And here in his own handwriting, the contradiction just stares you in the face. This isn't the philosopher of liberty. This is a manager, keeping detailed records of his human property. Over the course of his life, Thomas Jefferson enslaved more than 600 people. And the complexities of life at Monticello, they ran even deeper. During his presidency, rumors started flying about his relationship with Sally Hemings, an enslaved woman who was actually his late wife's half-sister. As you can see from this political cartoon from 1804, it became a huge public scandal. For almost 2 centuries, this was just fiercely debated history. But then, modern science brought a lot more clarity. The rumors started way back in 1802, But it wasn't until 1998 that a DNA study found a genetic link. 2 years later, the foundation that runs Monticello today concluded that Jefferson was likely the father of all 6 of Sally Hemings' children. And here's another thing. While he didn't free the hundreds of people he enslaved, his will did grant freedom to 5 members of the Hemings family. They were the only ones he ever freed. So, what do we do with all this? How do we hold both of these men, the visionary and the enslaver, in our minds at the same time? It forces us to confront his incredibly complicated legacy. And then there's this. In an almost unbelievable twist of history, Jefferson died on July 4th, 1826. It was the 50th anniversary to the very day of the adoption of the Declaration of Independence. You couldn't make this stuff up. And the story gets even crazier. His great friend and political rival, John Adams, died on the exact same day. Adams' last words were, "Thomas Jefferson survives," having no idea that his friend had already passed away just hours before down in Virginia. But what did Jefferson himself think his greatest hits were? Well, he told us. He left specific instructions for what to put on his tombstone. He wanted to be remembered for these 3 things: authoring the Declaration, authoring the Virginia Statute for Religious Freedom, and founding the University of Virginia. Now think about what's missing there. He leaves out being governor, vice president, and even president of the United States. To Jefferson, his real legacy wasn't about the political power he held. It was about the ideas he put out into the world, ideas about liberty, reason, and knowledge. And that brings us right back to where we started. The man who wrote that all men are created equal lived his entire life as an enslaver. He is the great American paradox, and he forces every generation to wrestle with a really difficult question. How do we remember a figure who embodied both our country's highest ideals and its deepest, most tragic flaws?